YouTube, Captain Machine here, back for another review, and this is part 2 of my 3-part Pathfinder RPG adventure path thingy review. So, we're going to talk about Pathfinder, the RPG. Now, you're wondering why on earth is this not the third one? Well, the third one's the monster manual, so I'll get that to them in a bit. But, onto the actual role-playing. Now, there's not a lot I can say that hasn't already been said, not only on other videos and other forums and topics, but also in my previous review of the beta. Now, the beta was just literally a template you slapped over on top of D&D that changed it in subtle ways to make it Pathfinder. Now, you don't have that problem anymore, but you do. One moment. Ugh. You do have this beast to contend with. And it is a beast, absolute beast. You could really hurt somebody with this. Look at that. Oh god, how big is it? How big are you? You are 572 pages, including the index. You are a beast. You are an intimidating beast. And I love it. Absolutely love it. This is a great book. The reason why it's so big is because it quite easily accommodates everything that you would expect to find in the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. It tells you how to play the game from the terms of a player, how to play it from the terms of a GM, how to generate treasure, how to do magic. Everything's in here. Prestige classes, environmental hazards, the works. Everything's in here. You can quite easily play the game with this book and nothing else. Granted, you won't have any monsters to fight. You have to homebrew the darn things, but you could play everything you wanted to play in this one book. This is self-contained as it's ever going to get for D&D. Just to point that out to you. So, as you can see, I'm very excited about this. Really, really excited about this. Basically, no need, obviously, to carry lug 2 rulebooks around with me, like the 3.5 Player's Handbook and the beta test. I've got this now. I've even give away my 3.5 Player's Handbook because I don't want to play it anymore. I want to play this. If I'm going to play anything that even remotely looks like D&D, I want to play this. I'm going to make out this after the video's gone off. But no, in all seriousness, they've taken all of the core classes and they've increased their power levels, but they've done it in such a way that, in my opinion, it's as balanced as it's ever got. Not only is it balanced with each other, but it's also balanced with a lot of the stuff that came out for the complete books. Now, those of you who may or may not be in the know, at the end of 3.5's lifespan, they released splat books for the game. Complete Arcane, Complete Warrior, Complete Divine, Complete Rogue or Scoundrel, I think it was called. And they had in them 20 level character classes. Same with the Player's Handbook 2. And those were ridiculously powerful compared to what was in the PHB. You had situations where people go, why would I play a Ranger when I can play a Scout? Because a Ranger, granted, can shoot a bit and cast a couple of spells, but a Scout can hit you for like 10d6 damage at level 20 just because he moves 30 feet. And you're expected to move in that game. So it seemed like there was a lot of the older classes were getting quite easily outweighed by the new ones, and I think this redresses the balance. In fact, some of the complete book class 20 level classes are actually now dwarfed by this, so they probably need a bit of tweaking if you're going to use them. They've done a lot with magic. Magic casters, especially wizards, are not as gimped as they used to be. I mean, I know people that look reminiscent and think about AD&D and first edition D&D and thinking, you know what, a wizard at first level should only be able to cast one spell, end of story. And it's like, granted, you know, there's a certain amount of nostalgic air to that, but we're living in a realm now where people don't want that anymore. I mean, if I asked you to play a video game where you could fire your gun once, and then you had to sit there for the entire duration of the game, and you couldn't do anything else apart from interact with objects and move things around, you get really bored with it. Granted, I've just described Call of Cthulhu, but that's not the point. The video game, by the way, not the actual role-playing game. Basically, you've got a lot more options to keep yourself in the fight. You're not farting hit points out like you do in 4th edition. It's still quite difficult to keep yourself alive if your GM is quite nasty or you have a bad string of luck. But paladins and priests get the ability to channel positive energy around them, so they don't have to get involved with the fight too heavily to be able to heal. And it does impact on their spell castings to heal the party, which is nice. And so you can have a paladin be your party healer quite successfully. Same goes for druids, although it takes a bit more work, and bards. So you don't have that dependency. Fighters are no longer the mainstay. A fighter is as powerful as a barbarian, is as powerful as a paladin. In fact, yeah, I said it right. A fighter is as powerful as a paladin and vice versa. Paladins got a huge increase in their relative strength in this game. And no longer are they dependent on 3 to 4 different stats. They have 2 primary stats now, charisma and strength. And you can have constitution there if you want to, you don't have to. And they've done a lot to make that class work, in my opinion. I'm not going to go into all the little specials because I'll be here all day. I'll be gushing over this book all day. All to say is I really do love it. As with any good review, I'm going to try and find one bad thing in it, and the bad thing is the sheer size of it. Now, I'm not complaining because I'm large and I'm out of weight, blah, 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 and obviously looking this around is going to kill me. No. What I'm saying is, as a brand new player, as in, like, I've just watched Captain Machine on the internet, and I get this a lot, you'd be surprised, and they go, wow, this guy sounds really interesting, he kind of really wants to get involved with this RPG, this sounds like a lot of fun. I know, he's been talking about Pathfinder a lot, let's go down to the shop and buy Pathfinder. And they go to Pathfinder, and they see this tome, it's a bloody tome, right, on the shelf, right? For somebody that up until this point has probably read Harry Potter, right, because his English teacher made him read it, right? So, and that's like a book that's like a fraction of this size. That's intimidating. That's hugely intimidating. Paizo, if you're listening out there, want a box set. Granted, I've always wanted box sets, and I'm really good that box sets don't exist anymore. But you need a Pathfinder box set, just like what AD&D used to have, which will tell me how to play the game from 1st to 5th level. Possibly give us some models, some maps, lots of dice, colourful character sheets. You need something to get your new audience into the game, because granted, this is a fantastic book if you have played RPGs before and you know what an RPG is and you're prepared to stare a book that big down and go, you know what, I'll read it. Granted, you don't have to read all of it if you're going to play it, but you do have to read it. This is also one of the small problems that 3.5 had to 3rd edition, which is there is enough rule changes in here to make it a brand new game, but it's not 100% certain where the rule changes are, where the similarities are, and you can quite easily skim over a couple of rules that people miss. Like, for example, there's a new class, the favoured class system is completely kaput, it's gone. In this, you pick a favoured class at 1st level. Typically, it's your 1st level class. You can never be a prestige class, but it can be a class you haven't got at this moment in time. And every time you gain a level in that class, you get to choose either to have 1 extra skill point or 1 extra hit point on your maximum. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're 20th level and you've got an extra 20 hit points because you're a 20th level fighter, compared to a 10th level fighter, some 10th level this, 5th level that, you know, it makes a huge difference, and it really does encourage you to stick with your core class, because prestige classes, although they are powerful, are going to hurt you in the fact you're going to lose that skill point, you're going to lose that hit point. So that's one little special rule which radically affects the game, which is quite easy to overlook because it is literally that big on one page. Now, I spent the first half of this video gushing about it, the second half of the video criticising it. Do I love it? Yes, I love it. I'm going to give this 4 stars. I would give this 5 stars. I really would. But my criticism of the fact that it is a tome and it is incredibly unfriendly to brand new players who have never played an RPG before. You know, basically, if I have to if I have to run a brand new group through a brand new system, I'm not going to use this. If I'm going to deal with people that have never roleplayed before, I'm never going to use this. I'm going to use Savage Worlds. At a stretch, I use Call of Cthulhu or BRP because they're easier to play and they're smaller. Granted, the fact that this is harder to play than Call of Cthulhu is not a detriment to it. I've always liked how complicated 3.5 was. I really did like it, and a lot of people agree with me. This is a very well selling game. But I honestly believe there should be an incredibly cut down version of this that takes out a lot of the bump, tells you how to go from 1 to 5th level, gives you a couple of adventures to play with, nice colourful box set, and that will help the long term success of this game. As much, if not more, than as publishing this book. Oh dear. Ending on a review on a negative point. I'm going to get a reputation. A really, really bad one. See you in a bit for chapter 3.